Happy St. Patrick's Day and happy Selection Sunday. Lots to get into. What a great showing in the Big Ten tournament by the Wisconsin Badgers. What are they going to do in the NCAA tournament? You'll find out what Justin and I think. It's the Bucky Report's March Madness special. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Bucky Report, your destination for all things Wisconsin Badgers. Authentic takes.
Oh my God.
Game analysis.
Touchdown Badgers! Ring one up!
And discussion from the fan perspective. Woo-hoo! Thanks for joining us and on Wisconsin.
Welcome into the Bucky Report. We are your hosts, Rajeev and Justin, back together on a Sunday for a March Madness special. I even did a little March Madness background for us for these next couple of weeks. On the show today, we're going to talk about the Big Ten tournament, Wisconsin's really good performance. What do we think about that? Right? What's our thoughts on the
here?
Yeah.
Welcome back, my friend.
I know. I went to Mexico. I was in Cancun last week, so I was there for a wedding. Justin did a great show with Nick from 247. That was awesome. But I'm glad to be back. So yeah, Big Ten tournament. And of course, Selection Sunday, NCAA tournament, all about March Madness. We're going to tell you how far we think Wisconsin's going to go. We're going to share our thoughts on the other Big Ten teams and how far they're going to go. And we're each going to put up our Sweet 16s and tell you who we think is going to win the national championship. Justin, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and get my thoughts out real quick here because
this is Justin's opening rant. I'm gonna move that one up to the top of the
everyone who wants to attack my point of view on this, and it's fine. I totally get it. I do not want Wisconsin to lose. Like, people keep misunderstanding what my perspective is on this.
And not necessarily the people that are listening, just people that you're talking to.
Like, I've had people reach out and like tag me on Twitter and stuff like that. I don't want Wisconsin to lose. They're my favorite team. I would love that they never lost again if it was possible. That does not mean that I love the coach. And that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to, like, we do it all the time with professional sports teams. And it's not, for whatever reason, it's not a big deal there. Like, you can bag on your own coach when it's the NFL or professional baseball or basketball. But you do it, God forbid you do it when it's college and everyone just loses their mind and you're just pooping on your team. And it's like, no. I love Wisconsin. I want Wisconsin to be the best that they can be. And we just have a difference in perspective of what I think Gard is capable of with me and some of the rest of the fan base.
Yeah. I mean, and myself included in the other side of that argument. Like, I think that, I understand your perspective. You want Gard gone. And whether or not that creates a battle for you of, like, do we really want to see them win? Like, I understand you want to see them win. You don't want them to lose. I get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, that his success in this tournament buys him more time.
It does.
Coach. And but I understand that because I know there's a lot of people that are listening to this right now. And, Justin and I and Ryan on Locked On, we always say we respect everyone's opinion. It's all good. Be whatever fan you want to be. If you are someone who wants Gard out, I get it. Believe me, I get it. After February, I was almost ready to jump on that train. And I'm not. And as I've said for the last several weeks, I will assess that at the end of the season. At the end of the year, we're obviously going to have a wrap-up show, and we're going to talk all about that. And that's going to be a big question, right? Like, the future of this program. So I totally understand that perspective, Justin. But yeah, I am just very excited about the fact that we're playing good.
I'm so happy to see them playing better again. Like, this is the point I made when this all started happening with the tournament run was, this is why it's so incredibly frustrating is, this team could have been doing this the entire season. They could have played this hard the entire year. They chose to, for whatever reason, the effort level during February was just not very good. Like, guys seemed disinterested. Mentally, they seemed just not on point, and that's why we slipped up. And it kind of cost us a little bit here. We got a really game James Madison team that we're going to be playing here. It's not a team that you want to be playing that has firepower. Now, looking at their KenPom, they're not great in terms of their defensive level, but they can definitely score the basketball. And if we have an off-game shooting, we could get into a bad spot for this.
5-12 games are always difficult. It's definitely not going to be easy. Ryan Willie says, I agree with Justin. David Thering Justin, there's nothing wrong with being against Gard. It has been too long since his team made the Sweet 16. It has to happen by the end of next season. Otherwise, hit the reset button from Gard. I've already started several comments that we're going to get to throughout the show, so keep putting your comments in there as well. So let's talk about the Big Ten tournament first. So obviously, we know the slump happened. We haven't been on together for a while. Give me your overall sense of the conference tournament. Obviously, we thumped Maryland, just thumped them. Yeah. Beat a good, solid Northwestern team, then beat the number one team in the tournament, the conference champion, and in my opinion, the second best team in America, next to UConn. And we got them. And then tonight, we put up a really good effort against Illinois. Give me your thoughts on the tournament.
So my perspective on this is, and I'll talk about it in conjunction with the NCAA tournament coming up quick. Number one, I thought they played extremely well. Offensively. Defensively, there's still some things I'd like to see. The effort level was up.
You have to give them credit for the effort.
I do. The effort level was up. We're still just not a great defensive team, and that's what scares me with them. But my biggest concern, and this is why I was not necessarily on board with a deep run. They played really well, but I'm a little worried about emotional / physical hangover going into the NCAA tournament now. The toll that 4 straight games takes on the guys, especially we got some guys that are dinged up. And it's like that extra day of rest would have been nice, and one less game played would have been nice for some of these guys to be going into the tournament with. Blackwell is a prime example. We spoke about him a little bit, and I actually think it's a little different than Connor, because I think Blackwell, you can directly basically link him to the fact that it was like game 2 or 3 of the tournament where he seemed to just fall off a cliff. I'm like, he's got tired legs. Like he's not used to playing exhausted. This intensive basketball this many days in a row. Yeah. And that's the difference between, like, people will be like, oh, they play these AAU games where they play 4 games in a day or whatever. It's like, they're not playing this level of intensity. Like that mental, like, strain and stress that it puts on you to play these games takes so much more out of you than it does when you're playing like a casual game, up and down game, like most of the AAU games are.
Yeah. Illinois fan, the Illini cast, Sonny Verma's in here. Great game today, fellas. It was absolutely super entertaining back and forth matchup. Good luck in the tournament. If you want to listen to this at any point and you're an Illini fan, because you beat us again. Illini cast is great. Sonny Verma does excellent work on there and the Big Ten show. Check that out. So look, I was really, really, really impressed and proud of the way that I think we played in this tournament. Obviously, we've talked about it a lot. Beginning of season, great. Mid-season, horrific. End of the season, we played Rutgers really well. We played well against Purdue, really well against Purdue, and lost that game. Then we go to the Big Ten tournament and look what we did. And I feel like it's almost as if the guys like saved it in their tank a little bit. And we're like, you know what, we can take February off. And I'm not saying they did that, but it feels like they did. And that's, if this is what we get, if we get pre January Badgers, this team absolutely can make some real noise. So I love the effort level, and I love the specific players. I want to get into a couple people right away. So to me, and I want your take on this too, the overall like Badger MVP of this tournament to me is Chucky Hepburn. Chucky Hepburn looks like, as Ryan said in a text earlier to me, a man possessed. Like, this guy looks incredible. This is a Chucky that I feel like, when you talk about the tournament, Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament, you talk about experience. People are always talking about guard play, good experienced guards. You can always win because he has another level that he has the ability to turn on. And man, did Chucky play great. I thought his performance was fantastic. Defensively, when it really mattered, that Purdue game, forcing the charge at the end of overtime. Wow, that's amazing. And everything that Storr did, I think we had really good performances. I was really happy. Who's your MVP of the entire tournament for the Badgers?
So it's really interesting because I heard you call Storr the game MVP today, and I understood where Ryan came back with saying Chucky. But the type of pressure that Storr put on Illinois today is, I think it's harder to quantify. But it's such an important aspect of why we were as tight in this game as we were. We had our second chance points like high on the season in this game. And a lot of that is directly associated with the fact that Storr was putting so much pressure on the rim in this game that is forcing guys to collapse on him, and we were getting offensive rebounds. So I probably would lean Chucky just because of the overall efficiency, but I think that the gap is a lot closer than people would like to admit with Storr in this tournament, because the level of pressure that he put on the teams that we played was just higher than what Chucky was doing.
He looked like he was playing with a different gear in the Big Ten tournament. AJ Storr, like, I mean, obviously we know that we've talked about this
towards the rim,
right? Absolutely. And I still look. There are things about AJ Storr that drive me crazy, like sometimes his shot selection, and really sometimes when he is dribble penetrating, which I love the aggressiveness. He gets too cute. Today, you saw him try to hit like an up and under the basket, and like he hit the top of the rim or something, the bottom of the rim, and he got blocked. And I'm like, dude, just go up strong. Like, you're going to get fouled. And we've taught this before. Don't try to be so cute. That being said, this kind of aggression, as you said, will pay dividends in this tournament, because when things are tough, he's not afraid to just try to create something. Now, sometimes he creates a turnover when he does that, but most of the time he's getting into the lane. He's either making a bucket, getting fouled, or putting, moving the defense a little bit to put one of our guys in a position for an offensive rebound. So I really like the way Storr has been playing. And Ryan said to me today in a text in our group chat saying something like, if we're going to win this game, Chucky and Storr have to take over. That's what has to happen in the tournament too. Like, those two guys have got to just be their guy, especially when we play Duke. If we play Duke, I suppose. But so most impressive win, Justin, of the Big Ten tournament. Is it Maryland or is it Purdue? What's the most impressive win?
It's Purdue. I didn't think we were going to win the game, to be quite honest. So Maryland is a bad basketball team.
But we did destroy them. I'm just saying, the reason I asked
we did.
But
it's the biggest win we've ever had. Almost like an older brother sitting on his little brother's chest and doing, why are you hitting yourself when you're beating up on Maryland? They're just not a team that I take totally seriously in terms of when we're playing them. Like, we should beat that team. This is where we were talking earlier in the season, where I said some of the teams, we should end up with a good record because we're better than most of these teams. And Maryland's a team we're better than. Purdue's better than us.
Yeah,
they're just top to bottom. They're more talented. We have to work harder to win that game. But in this case, we did it. I would say if we were going to play them 10 times, I think we beat Purdue 3. And that's just because they have more guys they can lean on consistently and expect a certain level of play than I think we do.
So I will push back and just say that, yes, the Purdue win is great. I understand people in the chat are agreeing with you as well. Purdue's a great win. But we played really well against Purdue 3 times, right? So we lost the other 2 games in the regular season, but we played them well. And this time we got the W because we were better in the end, and that was a great win. But the demolishing of Maryland, to me, is a different kind of win, in the sense that it's more impressive to me because we haven't done that all year. We haven't just thumped someone since the Michigan State game. We haven't just owned someone from beginning to end. And we needed that. We needed that because that drove our confidence, in my opinion, through this tournament. And I think it will drive us next weekend as well. So for me, it's a more impressive win just because we just owned it. And we could have very easily lost the Purdue game, right? If we don't get that, if we don't elicit that charge from Smith, who knows what happens? Like, I was really close. And obviously there's things on either side. For me, that Maryland win set the tone for what this team now, after everything they went through and the adversity they faced during the regular season, they're ready to kind of like attack, which, but David disagrees with me. He says Purdue's a better win versus the Maryland Rajeev. You're talking a win, yes, by a bunch over a bad team. Purdue arguably the best team in the country. 9 times out of 10 Purdue wins. I agree, but that's my point. Like, they're always a better team than us. They're going to beat us a lot. For me, it's just that the fact that we destroyed a team, which, guys, we went to Michigan and lost. Like, we've had some really bad games against bad teams. It's nice to have a really great game against a bad team. I guess that's kind of what I'm going for, right? But
I won't argue that. I like beating up. Like, there's a reason why some of us like to go in to play NCAA football on starter level, which is basically like the normal level. And you go out there and you drop a 60 bomb on whatever team you're playing, and it's because they're not. It's not the level of difficulty is not turned up enough to push you. But you're like, I love running up stats. And that's kind of the way it is with some of these games. Like, you just like to be able to go out there and just punish a team at times. And be like, all right, it's nice to see my team actually carve somebody up.
Right. And, you know, like I said, I'm not saying that Maryland's a good team. I like the way we crushed them. Let's get some comments in here. Brian Scott, I just want them to play the way they did in the Big Ten tournament, and they may not win, but they played hard. And to me, it was more team driven. Hopefully they are all healthy. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a good comment. We're going to get into more of this with the tournament talk, but if they play like this, there's things that can happen there. I'm not, you know, for sure. Herb Herman says, I agree with you, Brian. Play with good energy and live with the results. Honestly, beating Purdue was so sweet that anything else is gravy on top. Bucky, buddy, we're the hot team right now. Any team should be worried about playing Wisconsin. Will Hannah against James Madison, the game on offense should be win in the lane and on defense, do not let them be with the three. I actually meant to hold that one until we talk about James Madison, but let's get into it now. Anything else on the Big Ten tournament, by the way? You're obviously happy with the way we played. Any other notes about the Big Ten tournament, Justin?
Other than I think that these guys need to get into the therapy room and really get ready to play.
Boy.
Because they're pretty dinged up right now. Everybody. So hopefully we can get everyone kind of at least feeling okay.
Yeah.
On a plus side, you're only going to play 2 games this weekend if we make it through. So there you go.
Right.
It won't be the end of the world. Friday and Sunday.
Right. So March Madness is here. Wisconsin is a 5 seed in the East region. We go up against James Madison, which they're one of 4 teams to win 30 games. That was kind of said on the broadcast today. Not going to be an easy game. And then, of course, if we get by that first game, Duke or Vermont, probably going to be Duke. As soon as I saw Duke, I'm like, oh man, like they're a top 15 team in the country. It's like, really, we're going to get that. But it's not going to be easy, Justin. So we'll start there. So what we're going to do is we're going to first talk about the Badgers, where we think they're going to go. And then we're going to pull up our brackets and kind of go through what we think is going to happen in the tournament, talk about the Big Ten teams, and then we'll come back and kind of talk a little more details about the Badgers. So let's start there. Wisconsin, James Madison. First of all, how do you feel about the draw as far as our bracket? James Madison, Duke. Where are you at right now with what you're seeing on paper for coming up this Friday? By the way, great that we play Friday. That extra day, there was a comment in here about that too. The extra day is critical for what you talked about, getting the guys healthy.
I saw Houston, and I don't like that matchup long term for us if we somehow make it to that game, because defensively they can crank up the pressure.
Yep.
And we do terrible against defensive pressure. I'm not really. I'll be blunt. I have us beating James Madison and losing to Duke. I don't feel strongly about the Duke game, but I mean, looking at Ken Palm, they are ahead of us in that. We are perfectly capable of taking down Duke. I think that we're capable of going out there and putting up the scoring effort that's required. I think we probably have more individual plus players, but they may have the best player in Filipkowski in that game. So it would not shock me if we beat them. I think defensively they're probably a little better than us, and I think that that's kind of where I look at it. Is I just wonder if with this Wisconsin team, and this is where I caution when we start talking about confidence in this team playing really well. We were playing really well against Nebraska too until we got halfway through that game,
and then our season turned upside down,
and we just fell off a cliff.
Our season literally turned upside down at halftime.
It did, and that's why my concern is like it shows you how easy it is for things to flip, especially if a team is capable of putting the screws to us defensively. I don't know if Duke is capable of doing that. Houston definitely is.
Yeah, listen, so I think James Madison, I know that everyone's talking about being a tough matchup, and they can shoot, okay? I get it. I hear everybody's kind of like argument there. I'm going to put up Will Hannah's comment again. He said, James Madison, the game on offense should be one in the lane, and on defense, do not let them beat you with a 3. So this is how they're going to beat us, is with the 3 if they do that, and you're right.
Shoot. So, I've watched a little bit of their
right. But here's my thing about James Madison. Their tallest guy is 6'9", okay? They've got talented guys, but this is that game that when you've seen Crowl be successful many times this year, it's because he's not facing up against a big physical 5. He's not going up against Zach Edey, who literally can't even score against Edey. There's several guys in the Big Ten that he struggled with, but the James Madison team probably isn't that guy. Like 6'9" is their tallest guy on the team. So My thinking is Crowl and Wahl need to own this game, in my opinion. Like, this is the game where you put it in the post as often as you can, and you let those guys do their thing, especially if Wahl has a few days to rest and is healthy. He is fantastic at being creative down in the basket and the paint, which we've talked about before. And Crowl, despite some of the woes that we've seen on the defensive side and other issues that people have had with him all year, he is able to dominate down low when he's playing up against the guy that he can, a good matchup for him, which this looks like it is. Secondly, he's now shooting. Thank you, Steven Crowl, for finally shooting the ball. I love it. This man needs to shoot a three every time he's open because he makes 40 to 50% of them. Let him do it. He's one of the best three-point shooters on the team by percentage. It's Crowl and Blackwell. Those are the three best three-point percentage as far as overall percentage. Now, I know they're not taking a ton, but that's still important to say. So for me, James Madison is actually an okay draw because I feel like we should be able to win down low and win the battle. Duke is Duke. And I feel like my thought instantly there is the same thing. Yeah, the same thing that like San Diego State fans saw when they realized they have to play UConn like right away. I immediately think of the national championship in 2015, that Duke is Duke, and we're just probably not going to beat Duke. But I also feel like the one thing that we have over a lot of teams that are in this tournament, Justin, is experience. We've got guys that have played for years. Even though we only have one guy who's actually done with his eligibility, and Tyler Wahl, we've got a lot of experience on this roster. And that, to me, especially in the backcourt with Chucky, I think Chucky is the key in the Duke game. To me, it's Duke, it's Chucky and Storr that become the big players, and how we have, because it's going to take creativity. We're not going to be able to just go down there and own Filipowski. That's going to be hard to do. So I have us going to the Sweet 16. I actually think that it's not an easy draw, but I also am a super optimist. I believe with Rajeev, I'm going to be the guy that's always going to tell you that we're going to win when we're probably not. But I feel like we can do this only because of the performance we've seen in the Big Ten tournament. This team deserves a lot of credit for what they did in the last 4 days, and I'm super proud of that. So I think we can let that go into next week. Do you think I'm crazy?
I think we can score on them, and I think we will score on them. I question whether we'll be able to get the defensive stops we need to when we want to against them. Kind of like today against Illinois. I mean, that's what it came down to. When we had to put the screws to them and get stops, we couldn't do it. And that's going to be kind of the thing the rest of for the entire tournament.
Yeah.
What level of defense can we lean on with it? Because
I thought it was really telling today how Underwood, the coach of Illinois, like I think it was halftime or one of the mid whatever.
We're getting whatever we want.
Yes, he just straight up was like, "Yeah, we're getting whatever we want on the offensive side." I'm like, "You prick," but also he's right. Like he's right. I mean, they were just. It's really upsetting to hear that as a Badger fan, because Badgers, we play good defense in general, and this year, like, gosh, like the scoring is just off that. Thank God we have a decent offense.
Yeah, well, the other part of it was we dropped 21 points on Illinois to start the second half in the first 5 minutes, and we were only up 10, and they closed that in like a minute and a half. Like I walked out of the room, it was like 14:56. I came back, it was 12:22, and I was like, well, okay, we're up 3 now. That disappeared. And that's what a team like Illinois can do to you. Like if you're not good defensively, they can come down the floor and they will either get fouled or they'll make a shot.
They can abuse you. And that's the thing. Like Illinois is a really good team, by the way. We'll get to that when we talked about the Big Ten. Question here from Jim Tilson. Did you both go to UW? Right. Did you both go to UW and when? I did. Justin did not, but Justin's a lifelong Wisconsin. He's from Fond du Lac, I believe, right? Is that where you're from originally too?
Yep.
I went to UW 99 to 04. Mike says there's believe with Rajeev. Tyler Schreiber said recency bias. You're right. That's a fair point. And Ryan Willie says, Rajeev, I'd agree with you, but I don't trust they'll give their best effort. I disagree with you there, Ryan. I think that the time of the low effort is behind this team. I mean, can you imagine like what they've seen collectively in the last few days, the passion they were playing with? I find it hard to believe they're not going to translate that to next week, Ryan. I think they really will. I think they will. Do you question their effort, Justin, right now going in?
I think it will be there, and I think that there's going to have to be massive questions if for whatever reason you can get up for the Big Ten tournament, but you can't get up for the NCAA tournament. Like
exactly.
it's got to be there. Like, this is a win or go home tournament. I would be shocked if they don't bring it. So I don't know what to take from that. If people think that that's not going to happen, it could happen, because I don't put anything out of reach of this team. We could go out there and we could drop 90 on JMU. We could also go out there and struggle in this game.
Yeah, we could shoot from the 3 like we did against Purdue at the last game of the regular season and just get destroyed. Dark Ray says, I get we played well, Rajeev, last week, but that doesn't erase the fact that we played poorly for over a month. Yeah, Dark Ray, hear that. I just think that time is behind us. And the reason I say that is it's now been 6 consecutive games in a row that we've played well. And when you compare the last 6 games, it looks a lot like December and January. And I just cannot. Now, I could be wrong. Believe me, if we go and lay an egg on the effort, I will come on here and just say I'm shocked that I'm absolutely wrong. But I don't see that happening, because and that's why I said the Maryland game is important. It gave this team a huge confidence lift that they can go out and crush a bad team. So why not be able to beat James Madison by 30? Now, they're not a bad team, but where would they finish in the Big Ten, right? So, like, you never know. Yeah. I just feel like we should be able to push forward into next week. Now, do you think there's any chance, Justin? So let's say that I'm right and we get to the Sweet 16. Okay, let's, for the sake of discussion, anything can happen in March. Do you see any scenario that we can get it done against Houston at all if we are there?
If we shoot well, of course. I think that's really what it comes down to with Houston. Like, they're capable of slumping on offense. If we shoot well in that game and we bring it offensively, this isn't like us playing Arizona, where Arizona could effectively everyone was scoring at will against us in that game. I think we're capable of putting some pressure on Houston with our ability to score the basketball. The bigger thing there is going to be their ability to extend on defense and keep us from getting good looks. If we can find ways to execute on offense, we definitely can beat them. Like, Wisconsin can beat anybody. Like, the teams we're going to struggle with are going to be the most athletic teams that we play. It's not going to be grinder teams. And don't get me wrong, I believe Houston,
especially athletic bigs.
Yeah, I believe Houston's really high up in both offense and defense. They're actually pretty well regarded overall.
They're a very good team.
UConn are like the top two teams. But it can be done. I mean, we took down Purdue. It's not dissimilar from that. They're a lot more interchangeable in terms of their starting 5 than what Purdue was. There's no Zach Edey that can't move out on the perimeter and defend somebody. They can switch if they need to, which puts some problems out there for us too, because we're gonna have to deal with switching then and them not caring who they have on who.
Yeah. A couple more really good comments in here. Cody says Vermont can beat Duke. They've done it before, if I remember correctly. I believe Vermont did beat Duke in this tournament, but I don't remember. Blackwell needs to be 100%. Oh, yes, totally agree with you, Sebastian. Crowl needs to play with confidence and shoot. We had talked about that. And the defense needs to play with effort, and we can make far runs. See, that I agree with this, Sebastian. That's my point about the defense. We're not a good defensive team. We're not going to be a good defensive team. So let's get that out of the way. But if we play with the effort, just the effort defensively, we are pretty we're not bad. We're not great, but we're also not bad, because we can affect some shots. They are going to get in the lane. The dribble penetration is going to be there, but Chucky especially can really turn things up, on a guard. And Storr, I think when he wants to really work at it, he can play well, and we know Wahl can do it. So I feel like it's all about effort here. And I can't imagine after a 5-day rest that we're not going to get that. Couple more good comments here. Dark Ray says Houston will completely stall us with their defensive pressure. Our guards won't be able to handle that. Will says they'd have to shoot better than just well against Houston. Mike M says I don't think anyone's beating Houston, to be honest. Those guys can be really physical. Well, then again, Iowa State gives them the business. Yeah, I mean, they did just get crushed.
I'm going to just be blunt with that. It's a lot like Big Ten teams. Being physical is one thing. It really comes down to the refs in March, because we've seen it where Big Ten teams go into the tournament wanting to be physical, and it turns into a finesse tournament. And it's the Big Ten teams really struggle because they're not used to getting the foul calls that they're normally getting in the tournament, and they're not used to grinding out games, or they're used to grinding out games and they can't because the refs are just like, no, we're not going to let it slide.
The refs are difficult.
Ugly.
They're the difficult. And this was a comment from earlier that I started. Tren Sensenig. Can't wait for the tournament to start and get away from the Big Ten refs. And I like that everyone in the media is picking us to lose. Yeah. So about the refs, boy, once again today, not as bad as the Purdue game, because the Purdue game, and I was on the reaction show with Ryan, and man, that was rough. But I thought the refs were a little bit better today. But man, like we have to be careful. We have to take our risks. Like we have to be very careful about when we take them from a defensive perspective, because if we get Crowl and Wahl or early couple fouls, our game changes entirely. Winter is not productive offensively.
He's not right.
Defensively. Gilmore, obviously, we know can't do anything. Ilver doesn't seem to be playing with the way that we kind of wanted him to. We don't really have a lot of good options at the big if we get those guys in foul trouble. So the refs are going to be a big part of this. And typically in the NCAA tournament, they call things very tight. They'll call games tight really early to set the tone. So we need to play that the way we did it in the old Bo Ryan days of just really focusing on not fouling, because that, I think it spells trouble, when we do that.
Watch Ilver go into an NCAA game and end up having a 3 for 4 from 3 game, where it's just like everyone's expecting him to just botch it. He's got a clean stroke. Like, I don't know why he's just not hitting shots, but he has good form on his jumper. At some point they'll fall. Maybe it's not going to be this year, but man, if it were to happen, it'd be hilarious at this point. It's kind of like Carter getting 7.5 points today. Like, where did this come from?
Well, I'll tell you, it's nice. Every time Carter Gilmore scores a bucket, especially today when he got the and one, I'm like, holy crap, man. But you know what? Kudos. He plays hard. I will always give him that. I will never stop that man from give him slack because he plays hard. But as Dark Ray points out here, Gilmore needs to stop shooting threes. Yeah, Dark Ray, you're right. I mean, he's so wide open that it's like, I have to take it. I mean, I just have to shoot this. There's no one within 10 feet of me, but he also made one in the last game. So you understand why he took one today.
He's got a jump shot like Jordan Davis, where it hits, like it's like a thud from a brick on the back of the rim when it hits. And it's like, that is not a soft touch on that jump shot. It's like, my God, man. Like there's missing and then there's missing.
Yeah, it's like the definition of the word brick is like that. That's a brick. That's literally a brick. Is yikes. All right, man. So you have the Badgers losing in the round of 32. I have them getting to the Sweet 16 and then losing to Houston. I'm sorry, I can't pick that in my bracket. There is still a little bit of money involved in my bracket. By the way, send me a DM if anyone wants to get. I do a bracket pool. If anyone wants to get into that, send me a DM and I'll pop you over the link. $5 per bracket, max of 2 brackets. All right, let's get into our brackets. March Madness. I love March Madness. I have a very time-honored tradition of eating pizza rolls during the March Madness selection show. It's really weird, but I've been doing it for as long as I can remember. So yeah, I mean, I love March Madness. To me, this is the best tournament in all of college sports. I absolutely love it. I think it's so fun. The first 2 days, I'm going to be going to the Orleans Casino. If anyone lives in Vegas and has watched this, come to the Orleans for Thursday and Friday to watch games. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I'm assuming you have a big affinity to this tournament. Agreed, right? Oh,
I love it. I normally take days off. This year, I'm debating. It sounds like it's going to be a late game on Friday. But last year, me and a couple of buddies went up to a casino in Oneida in Wisconsin and did some betting, watched games, ate a bunch of food, drank some beer. So we're 2 days. We're old now. So by day 2, after all the drinking, your body's just like, this is the worst idea you've ever had.
Listen, man, I just went to an all-inclusive resort in Mexico. Yeah. It was rough.
You drink for like 12 hours straight and you're like, this is a great idea the first day. And then like, it already starts turning at night. You're like, oh man, it's 8:30. I'm tired. You're like, you wake up the next day, you're ultra dehydrated and just feel like garbage. And you're like,
especially when you're like, drinking all day. Boy, it gets killer. Easton Park's how much money? $5 for my bracket if you want to get into that per thing. Herman says, awesome tradition. Thank you, Herb. Got to have my Totino's pizza rolls. All right. Tyler Schubert says, I took Thursday and Friday off. I'm going to take most of both of those days off, but I can't take all of them. So hopefully, by the way, have the times come out yet, Justin?
Will Hanna says 8:40 Central on Friday.
Easton Park says that too. So this is 9:40 Central.
That'd be amazing if it is.
Well, let's get a few more people that are in the comments to give us a official update on this on the time of the game. I'm trying to look too, but that to me it's important because I need to make sure I can clear. Oh, it is 6:40 Pacific. So there it is, 9:40 Eastern, 8:40 Central, 6:40 Pacific. So it's going to be one of the latest games of the first round, which kind of I like because if the Badgers lose, I don't want to watch shit for the rest of the time, right? But now I can enjoy the entire first round and then hope the Badgers kind of close it out at the end. So that's pretty cool. So there's your game time, which is cool. Okay, so we're going to talk about brackets. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to just kind of do Sweet 16 share our brackets here, and then you're also going to kind of get a sense of who we think how far the Big Ten teams will go as well. By the way, before we do that, what the Big Ten team, Justin, in your opinion, I know this answer because I know your bracket already, that has the potential to really make an impact here. Do you think it's Purdue or Illinois or someone else?
Oh, it's Illinois, hands down. I don't think it's
why. What is it about Illinois?
Athleticism, shooting, and when they want to actually play defense, they're very athletic and capable of switching and locking down. We saw it today. They can be good enough on defense when they want to cause you some problems. And they rebound really well. So there's a lot that they can get away with that even when you're playing well, that they can cause problems for you. And I mean, Wisconsin was basically cranked up to 11 today and we still couldn't get it done. I mean, we dropped 87 on them and it wasn't enough to win that game.
Yeah. I mean, Illinois is really good. I agree. I don't have Purdue going to the Final Four because I feel bad for I have a lot of friends that are from Purdue fans because I'm from Lafayette, Indiana. And it's like, that's brutal because those guys, listen, you stop Edey, you find a way to double him or you get him in foul trouble. While they have really good players, I just don't know. I feel like this team is just primed for they're not going to get beat by the 16. I'll tell you that.
It changes the complexion of their team when he's out. He's just such a giant focal point for them.
But I really do hope. I mean, I hope for Purdue's sake. They're not in our bracket. So, because again, I have a lot of friends who are Purdue fans. Boy, that team, like we beat them in 1999 and 2000 to get to the Final Four, which heck yeah, that was awesome. They've had a lot of disappointment. So I feel for their fans. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk about my bracket first, and then we will get into Justin's bracket. So if you're listening to the podcast, I'm just going to talk you through my Sweet 16 here. So in the East, Justin, I've got UConn and San Diego State getting to the Sweet 16. Kind of almost chalk here. I don't believe really Auburn can do it. And San Diego State, remember, last year was in the Final Four. So that, and FAU was in the Final Four as well. But San Diego State, I think, and UConn. And then on the bottom half of that, I got Illinois and Ohio State. I agree with you. Illinois is really, really good. I have Illinois beating Ohio State and UConn beating San Diego State. So UConn, Illinois in the Elite Eight there. Going down to the West, I actually have Michigan State and Grand Canyon University in my Sweet 16. GCU, I watched some of their game the other day. Boy, they look like a dangerous 12 seed. And St. Mary's is a good tournament team, but I still think GCU gets it done. And just because I feel like I had to have a double-digit seed in my Sweet 16, and I have another one here too.
There's some of that on mine too.
Yeah, Grand Canyon. And so for my first Big Ten team, look, I believe that Tom Izzo's a really good tournament coach. Michigan State, I don't care what their seed is. I don't care who their players are. That team, although we beat them twice, they've got good players, and Tom Izzo is a really good tournament coach, really good. So Michigan State to the Sweet 16. Then I've got Baylor and Arizona. And here I actually have Michigan State going to the Elite Eight, and I have Arizona. And then Arizona goes to the Final Four from this, and UConn is in the Final Four from the other. So I've got UConn and Arizona as my first two Final Four teams. Going to the right side of the bracket, I have the Badgers, Justin. I believe the Badgers are going to go to the Sweet 16. Yes, Dark Ray, I have Gonzaga losing the first round, only because, again, you got to have some crazy upsets, because if you don't, you know that your bracket's just never going to take. So yes, I have them losing in the first round.
I saw somebody saying that the best win that both St. Mary's and Gonzaga had were against each other. And I think that if that's accurate, that's a problem, because they're normally pretty tested, and I don't know if they necessarily are this year.
Yeah, I mean, I do have Gonzaga and St. Mary's losing the first round. That's a little bit of a much for me. But because the 12-5s are going to happen, but it's not going to happen to us. Houston, Wisconsin, and then NC State. I have NC State getting through. I thought they played a really great game in their ACC tournament. They're pretty solid. So I think they'll get through. And then I have Houston and Marquette. And then I've got Houston going to the Final Four. In the last bracket, Purdue and McNeese. Yes, McNeese State is going to get by Kansas and Gonzaga. That's a little crazy, though. I understand that. But again, you got to have upsets if it's going to work. Purdue, McNeese, and then Creighton, Tennessee. So chalk at the bottom of this bracket for me. I'm going Creighton and Purdue to the Elite Eight. And here's my surprise. Again, I think Purdue, I almost want them to get to the Final Four because I know their fans are so desperate for it. I'm sorry, but Creighton is going to round out my Final Four. So my Final Four, again, for those listening, UConn, Arizona, Houston, Creighton. And then I'm going kind of chalk here, UConn and Houston, and I think UConn wins the national title. If you, Ryan, Locked On Ryan got to watch UConn in person, and he said they were just magnificent. I've watched them, I think, 3 times, full games. They are so good. And I honestly think that they might have a situation where they like cruise. They're going to have tough games. But Justin, I think they could really like just destroy teams along the way and somewhat have an easy route. Now, I know that you question kind of like the number 1 seeds winning it. How often does that happen? That's fair. But that's kind of where I'm at. So Justin, hit us with your bracket.
All right. Let's see.
By the way, did you have a good St. Patrick's Day? Did you do anything fun for that? Did you drink some beer at least?
I had some beer on Friday. So
I had some beer on Friday. There you go.
Didn't mine come up here?
It's showing me a blank screen right now, though you had it before.
What is going on here? Let's see.
Justin's trying to share his screen so we can go over his bracket. But yeah, for me, again, UConn, Arizona, Houston, Creighton. Creighton is probably a bit of a stretch, to be honest, obviously, because Purdue definitely could come out of that. Tennessee could come out of that bracket. But Creighton is just one of those teams that I think just does really, really well. Are you able to get this to work? You had it.
I'm working on it. I had it earlier. I don't know what's going on here. Let's try this again. No.
While he's doing that, let me put up a few comments. Oh, you got it. Okay. Yeah, there it is. Now don't touch anything else. You got it.
All right.
All right. So talk us through. Start up at the top left.
Sure. Top left. I have obviously my Sweet 16 is UConn, Auburn, Illinois, Iowa State, and I have in that area. I'm going to call an upset. I don't feel strongly about this, but I did not want chalk, and everyone is leaning into UConn. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna call an upset here. Something's gonna happen. Maybe Auburn has the athletes and is capable of playing good basketball, so I'll take a chance that maybe they pull it out. And then I have Illinois beating Iowa State, and I actually have Illinois going to the Final Four. So I do think they'll make a run.
I mean, look, Illinois, you do bring up a point about Illinois. Like we've obviously seen them a couple times down. If you watch other Big Ten games, like I know we both do, they are really, really good. If what you say happens, if UConn goes down in the Sweet 16, then I would agree with you. Illinois is going to make the Final Four because I think Illinois is going to be in the Elite Eight, and I would be shocked if they didn't get there. But yeah, I mean, UConn, Auburn, man, I tell you, I don't know that Auburn's got it in them to beat that team.
I'll get into Illinois here first. The issue that comes with the tournament here for Illinois and why I feel strongly about them making a run. They have 2 stud scorers. They have Damask and you have Shannon. And that gives you 2 guys that are going to be incredibly difficult to lock down. So even if you have a really balanced team, and they have other guys that are capable of contributing too and having good games. And that makes it really complicated to deal with them in a tournament like this, especially a lot of times on very limited time to prep for a team. Like we saw what they did to us today with Damask, just posting him and causing problems for us. He's going to do that to a lot of teams in the tournament. And he's so efficient and does so many things well on the court. And then Shannon can just score at will. So, I mean, they're going to be a problem for anybody. They can play basically any style. if you want to get into a track meet with them, that's exactly what they want you to be doing. And that's kind of going to be a problem. With regard to Iowa State, I just think that they can be had. I mean, the Big 12, I think was down a little bit this year overall. I mean, Kansas was not what they normally are. Texas was pretty meh. Baylor, I actually thought they were going to be better than they actually are. And I actually have them making a decent little run to the Elite Eight, but I don't think they have the top level of that team to be able to push all the way into the Final Four. But yeah, I look at this. We'll jump down to the next section. I think UConn has a chance to make a run. Like, I would not be shocked at all. I just didn't want to go chalk. And I'm like, it's getting really difficult here to not pick a bunch of ones.
Right. I picked a couple of them, yeah.
Yeah, for my bottom, I have North Carolina, Alabama. I don't feel strongly about Alabama, but they are a really good scoring team. And if they get hot just shooting the basketball, they could end up making a run simply because they're athletic and they can score. And that plays in March. Baylor, Arizona. I actually feel better about Baylor than I do about Arizona in this because Arizona's been all over the board. And maybe they'll lock in like they did against Wisconsin. But I don't know if I've seen them play that well since this year. And that's kind of a little bit of a concern with them that they'll be able to get it done. I actually have North Carolina going in. I actually looked at their KenPom. They're really good offensively and they're really good defensively. So I think they're a legit one, and I think that they actually have a pretty good shot at running that region.
Fair point. So you've got Illinois and North Carolina so far in the Final Four. Very nice.
Yep. Then we'll go up to the South, and I have Houston and Duke. Again, I don't feel strongly. I have Wisconsin making it to the round of 32. I do have Duke winning. They're better than us in KenPom. I feel like athletically they're probably a little bit better than us, and I think defensively they're probably a little bit better than us. If we shoot really well, we can definitely take them down. I just think that if we're going based off of what I think we can expect from them from a defensive standpoint and some of the things they can do like rebounding and stuff like that, I think that we have to have a good shooting game in order to win that one.
Okay.
Then I have Kentucky Marquette on the bottom half. Marquette, I just think, is a good enough team that they can push through Colorado. Obviously, I don't think that they're going to have much trouble with Western Kentucky. And then I think Kentucky will beat Marquette. I don't feel strongly about it, but I think Kentucky probably has a little bit more athleticism than them. And that's one of the things that I think Marquette struggled with this year a little bit. At sometimes they are a little bit athletically limited compared to some of the teams they play, and they want to play fast. And when you play athletic teams fast, sometimes they go out there and they just dominate you because that's the way they want to play. They want to get out and run and gun. You have to be really efficient if you want to play that way. I do have Houston, Kentucky in the Elite Eight, and I have Houston going on. And then obviously bottom, Purdue, Kansas. Honestly, I think that Purdue's probably going to beat the crap out of Kansas in that game. I don't think it's going to be it's probably a double-digit win in my opinion. Kansas just isn't that good this year. And then I have Tennessee and South Carolina. The Fighting Lamont Parises are going to get their due and get into the Sweet 16. But then it's going to be Tennessee taking them down. I actually have Tennessee going to the Final Four. I think Tennessee athletically, they can really crank it up defensively. And I think they'll get out and really push the ball against Purdue, which I think will be a problem for Purdue. It kind of takes Edey out of the game a little bit if he has to run the floor that much. And Tennessee wants to get out and run and gun. And I think that's going to be a problem. That's not a good fit for what Purdue wants to do. Like, I know Purdue can go out there and score a lot, but I don't think they're used to playing with a team that's this athletic and this good defensively when they're playing that way, that they can kind of put the clamps on you a little bit.
Before you get into your final game and champion, if those of you that are listening live, go ahead and throw in your final four in the chat. And also give me your biggest upset that you have on your bracket so far. What's your big sort of upset in your bracket? I'm going to pop up on the screen and we'll talk about him after Justin gets through his final. Who's in your final two and your champion?
Sure. I have North Carolina beating Illinois. and Houston beating Tennessee.
So 2 number 1 seeds, same as me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I have Houston as my champion. My biggest upset, let me take a look. I think it's a toss-up between McNeese beating Gonzaga and Grand Canyon beating St. Mary's for me.
Yeah, you've got Grand Canyon too. That's nice. I like it.
Calling those
All
upsets
right.
of those.
There you go. You want to
conference teams.
You want to stop sharing your screen there, and we'll get this all back up. All right, so we're going to put up some comments here. So Cody Schmidt says McNeese to the Sweet 16. Totally agree with you. Samford over Kansas, Owen Johnson says. Samford is an interesting one, right? Kansas has had a really up and down year. Definitely, that's fair. And Chigalonkers says, I'm surprised nobody is talking about Colgate. I don't even know where Colgate is on this bracket, to be honest. I mean, where are they? This is crazy. I mean, I think that and we know neither of us have said anything more than a 12, right? I don't think either of us picked a 13 or anything higher than that. Now, and Colgate
probably will be.
Okay. So Colgate's playing Baylor, but you're right. There's definitely going to be a 13 or a 14 or probably a 15 that wins. So looking at your bracket, Justin, if there was going to be a 13, 14, or 15, who would it be? So for me, Duke, Vermont, Duke could definitely be a 13 that gets it done. I don't feel like Oakland's going to do that. I don't feel like West Marquette. St. Peter's, I could maybe see an upset over Tennessee because St. Peter's has had some history in this tournament. I mean, yeah, Long Beach State. I watch a little Big West basketball out here, and I think Long Beach State's a decent team that could potentially be an upset over Arizona. But I really don't see a lot, truthfully. I don't see a ton of really, really big. I mean, maybe Charleston, but who knows, right? Oh, Colgate. Let's have someone mentioned Colgate over that. Do you have any? What's yours? Anything of those 13, 14, 15? Who might get it done?
I've heard people talk about Yale.
Oh yeah,
taking down Auburn. That could potentially happen. They're a smart, heady team, and that's when you get a team that is just skilled and plays without making a lot of mistakes. Athletic teams that want to put pressure on and can't quite do it, they tend to overplay and end up getting themselves into bad spots, which ends up leading to easy scores, and smart teams end up taking you down. And that's one of those things with a team like Yale, they have an opportunity to do something like that. If they can get hot shooting early, potentially get a lead and get confident, that's when you have a team like Auburn who could get in trouble in a game like that. Let's see here. There are people I've talked about. I've heard Vermont. It would not shock me.
Wouldn't that be great if we got to play James Madison and then Vermont to get to the Sweet 16?
Those would probably be the two highest one. I don't know a ton about Baylor this year. Obviously, the last time I really paid attention to them was the national championship year. I really, I guess for me, would depend on how aggressive Baylor is, and are they able to kind of dictate like that team could? I don't think they're obviously not that dominant, but if that's the way they're still playing, if they're playing that aggressive of defense, I would be shocked if they give up an upset, just because it's really hard to deal with a team that plays really aggressive defensively unless they get in foul trouble.
So some more comments here. Herb Herman, UConn, Arizona, Kentucky, and Tennessee, with the biggest upset, Illinois losing in the first round. Wow, Herb. Oh, man. You got Morehead State over Illinois. Now, listen, now Morehead State, that's a good call there, Herb. I mean, that's a 14. Illini cast who's listening to this right now, Sonny is not going to be happy to hear that. But hey, Sonny, Justin picked you the Final Four, so you should be happy. Easton Park says UConn, UNC, Creighton. By the way, yeah, Easton, Creighton. Kentucky, Creighton v. UConn, Creighton Natty. I don't know about that, Easton. That's been a stretch. Easton also says, I love a Drake run. And then Easton also says, Samford, I love the upset. Oh, man. Dark Ray says, I want to see Purdue or Illinois just win, just so our conference is represented on the national level. I wanted to put this comment up there because, so I have said all year, you've heard me say many times, that I think the Big Ten is better than people think it is. Definitely better than you think it is, sir. And many people that listen to this. But I think the Big Ten is better. And I'm always I'm a really big Big Ten homer, by the way. I always root for Big Ten teams. In this tournament, I want to see every Big Ten team win, except if they play us. So if we have to play Nebraska somehow in the Sweet 16, then they're going down. But I think Illinois has a really good chance to make some serious headway. That team is phenomenal. Purdue, obviously, we know they're good. I hope they do well. But yeah, I mean, I love seeing the Big Ten do well because, like Dark Ray is saying, I appreciate when the conference does well to get some national recognition because, frankly, like many people said the Big Ten was down this year. You still think it's a down conference.
There are a few teams I like. I like Illinois and Purdue. I think Purdue will have a better showing, obviously, than they've had in the last few years. I obviously really like Illinois in terms of what I've seen from them. I am not happy with the seeding that Nebraska got. I feel like they kind of got slapped in the face a little bit.
They sure did.
I feel like they should have been like a 6 to me.
Northwestern and Nebraska, frankly, 8-9 seeds. I don't think so. Again, that's me being a Big Ten homer, and I understand that. But I think they're better than that. I actually legitimately think both teams should have been 7
I agree with that.
At worst.
I think Nebraska's capable of playing pretty good defense, and I absolutely think if they get hot, that they could get into they're a team that Houston could struggle with if they make it to the second round, if they get hot in that game, because they really play aggressively on defense when they're locked in and the energy's there, and they can shoot. Like Tamanaga can get flat out unconscious regardless of how good your defense is on him if he gets some confidence going. And that's a guy who can carry that team. And I think that they're pretty skilled at most of the other spots. So yeah, do I think they'll beat Houston? No. Do I think they could put a scare into them? Heck yeah, I do. They're definitely capable of going out there and lighting it up if they start clicking.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be a great tournament. Listen, I love it. I hope everyone has cool traditions that they do, whether it's like me, I'm going to go to a casino and watch, or if you take the days off or whatever, it's a great time. If you haven't been to Vegas, by the way, for this is a really fun place to come watch March Madness. I need to get Justin and Ryan out here next year for this because it's pretty good. Let's get a few more comments here. Let's see here. Ivan Moan said Ben Brust has Creighton winning it all. Tyler Schubert, NC State going to stay hot.
His takes, it's not shocking.
Yeah. Tyler, I have NC State going pretty far. I have them into the Sweet 16 and losing to Marquette. So I definitely think that's true. Herb Herman says, is Kansas flying under the radar more than in Self's tenure? Could be a sneaky pick. I think Kansas is always a sneaky pick, but they are a 4 seed. If they get by Stanford and McNeese or Gonzaga, they play Purdue. I think they're probably not going to be a team that really is to reckon with. Zach Bartz really doesn't like Purdue. If Purdue loses to a double-digit seed, Edie will have every season end to a double-digit seed. Wow. Look at that.
So one thing I will say
about that.
One thing I will say about Purdue and people that want to compare them to last year, you need to also remember last year, their starting backcourt were straight up true freshmen. That changes a lot when you get a year under your belt, and that will help them a lot this year when they play. If nothing more, they'll be far more calm playing in that. Like when you're a 1 seed and you have true freshmen out there playing point guard and shooting guard, that's going to put a lot of pressure on a team of guys who are just don't have the battles under their belt. I expect them to be a lot better. Like I said, I still don't think that they're going to end up making it all the way just because those guys aren't quite there yet. And I actually think that in some ways Edie hurts you as a team in terms of what he requires.
He's pretty good, man. National Player of the Year.
He is. I'm not denying that, but I think that he kind of messes with the offensive flow of some of the other guys. And I think
he just opens it up for them. People double down on him all the time.
But it doesn't always happen with them. Sometimes guys just end up kind of not moving and sitting on the perimeter.
Yeah, last thing about Purdue, Herman says this, and I totally agree with this, Herb. Purdue's a lot better, but if Edie gets in foul trouble or if Smith is hurt, not 100%, they are in big trouble. To me, if anybody gets 2 fouls on Edie in the first half, you're going to be able to make up some ground. All right, we'll wrap it up there, my friend. March Madness is here. I'm so excited. So Thursday, Friday, we play Friday at 6.
Starts on Tuesday.
Right. Oh, that's true. I don't think about those games.
Those could be Final Four teams, my friend.
That's right. Badgers. 8:40 Central Time on Friday, pretty much the last game of the first round, which is fantastic. I love that. I think that's really great because I can enjoy every moment of it. And then hopefully it ends with a game there. Any final thoughts, Justin, on March Madness or the Badgers? Anything else you want to get into today?
Let's go out there and stay hot and hopefully knock out 2 straight wins.
Gosh, a Sweet 16 run is something this team and this fan base badly needs. And whether you're on the Fire Guard train or whatever, that's fine. You can, even if we go to the Elite Eight and people still say Fire Guard, I hear it, I understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. Let's all band together and let's hope that the Badgers can get this done. Mm-hmm. Because by the way, if they make it to the Sweet 16, I'm going to be tempted. I'm going to be really tempted to go to Dallas to watch the Badgers. I've traveled often for the Big Ten for the March Madness, and I want to do that again. I was hoping they were going to be in the West because, as you know, we only make it to the Final Four from the West. All 3 times we made it in the recent memory, we were in the West. Not saying that's going to happen, but if we were in the West, I'd feel a little bit more confident because we just happen to always do it. That being said, thanks for listening, guys. We are at the Bucky Report on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the channel if you like what we're doing. If you're listening to us by now, hopefully if you're listening to us this long into the show, hopefully you are a subscriber. But thank you all for your support. We'll be doing a bunch of March Madness content, so every weekend we'll be back. We might do a couple little midweek getting into like some pre-predictions before the James Madison game. But nonetheless, with that, go Badgers, baby. Let's get this done in March on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bucky Report or The Bucky Report Podcast from wherever you get your content. Until next time, on Wisconsin.